Outrage today, what they have just announced for your home. Ladies and gents, this is a crazy one yet again. So a little bit of context here. We know that the UK government is broke. They are in a debt spiral with absolutely no way out. We have had announcement after announcement after announcement where they are basically taking more and more money from you, the people, and they're either using it to plug this black hole, wink, wink, which they've created, even though it was a 22 billion black hole before. And now it's even worse because they want to redistribute, make the country more equitable for all. This is getting absolutely out of hand. This is all council tax. It's all to do with a levy on your home. This is not a joke. They have now, it hasn't been fully announced yet, but it's expected to pass any day. So what is the proposal? I've gone through all of this for you as usual. They now want to replace this sort of, they don't want to replace council tax, but they want to replace part of stamp duty. So if you've already paid stamp duty when you purchased your home, now they want to change it so potentially you will pay stamp duty when you sell your home. There's also a new tax that they are looking to implement, 0.44% up to 0.54% per year of the value of your home. This is not a joke. I was doing some of the calculations. One man's home I was looking at, he's going to pay almost £10,000 per year on this new tax so that they can redistribute the money, the wealth, to make it more equitable. Some of the things in this proposal are outrageous. They're talking about how the South is so much richer and London is so much richer than the North, and there's some places that are in abstract poverty now, absolute poverty. So what they are talking about is they want to redistribute the wealth to make it more equitable everywhere. Ladies and gents, this doesn't work. We've seen this over and over again. There are so many studies on this throughout economic history. You can just do a search and you can find loads of these. And it's the same result every single time. When you redistribute the wealth, the rich people tend to leave or they go into protectionist measures. And then the people who were in poverty, who might get some of this new money, they end up back where they started in the first place. This is all due to the financial thermostat that everyone has in their mind. We can talk about that a little bit more later. But they want to introduce now this proportional annual property tax. And this is on pretty much all homes that they are looking at here. They're going to be focusing heavily on homes that are £500,000 or more. But really, the levels go all the way through. Rightmove, the property company, is talking about how stamp duty as well may shift from the buyer through to the seller. And also, this could be a recurring annual fee. A recurring annual fee on this stamp duty. There's also another proposal to adjust band levels nationwide for more expensive properties because the rich should pay more, it says. Mansion tax, this is number 2, through capital gains tax on high-value primary residences. The rich should pay more in order to support the poor, it leads with. So they're saying that we need a mansion tax on the wealthy. It says applying capital gains tax when people sell their primary residence worth, say, £1 million or so. So they want to add on a 24% charge. This is a new gain charge. While it says basic rate payers would only be charged 18%. This is out of the Financial Times, by the way, if you want to look any of this up. So I was looking through this then at just how outrageous and stupid this is. It's so dumb. Pensioners and long-term owners, this is similar to the farmers example we looked at. This is people who are asset rich, but they are cash poor. How on earth are they going to pay this annual levy of thousands and thousands of pounds, especially if they've already paid stamp duty when they bought the home? You're also going to see things like the housing market could stall really seriously you could stall, because people are going to delay selling because they think, why sell, why downsize if I'm going to have to pay all of these taxes when I've just paid all these taxes to buy the damn thing. And then you've got all the regional inequality, as they're calling it. They say that the rich should shoulder the burden of the black hole. Why? Firstly, answer me someone. Why should... And again, when they talk about the rich, they're not talking about this 0.1%, the billionaire class. They're talking about people who earn £100,000 or more. Is that the rich? I would say no. That isn't rich in today's age. Let's go over to the shared screen and look at a couple of the articles that I've pulled up for you here. So here's one you can look at. This is one about Rachel Reeves launching a tax raid on your home. She's going after middle-class families as they brace for a lethal cocktail. The cliche about an Englishman's home being his castle is a cliche for a reason. It's based on a deep-rooted English obsession with home ownership and a belief that the state shouldn't step into their front gardens, let alone over their welcome mat. People have started removing their welcome mats, I've noticed, by the way. The bottom line is this. Only politicians who have lost their grip on reality think it's a good idea to go after English voters' homes. I would agree. But yes, she is drawing up fresh plans. A mansion tax and also a levy or an annual tax here. And if you look at who has the highest tax in the G7 and quite possibly even wider, it's the UK. It's way above a lot of the others. Look at Germany, 0.9%. And it says one of the biggest dangers is that it will not fall on a wealthy elite, but a middle class already squeezed. So in the last 30 years, stamp duty has morphed from a very small charge that very few people paid, and now it's incurred by millions of homeowners. But they want to go even further than this. They want to take this further and have everyone paying it. Look at these forecasts. These are ridiculous forecasts that they have put together. And there was another one I wanted to show you. Was it this one? No, it was... Okay, we'll come back to it in a moment. There was a chart that I wanted to show you, which was so crazy. But they're saying that this could... I mean, £9,500 for someone who owns a more valuable home. So they can... You might say, well, they can afford it. Well, maybe they got that house many years ago. But it would really hit the London market. So if you have a home in London... be aware, because it's going to hit the London market very, very heavily. Look at the tax threshold rates. It is staggering. In fact, look at this. Anyone earning £100,000 once considered a bumper salary loses 62p. So that's 62% of the next pound they earn to income tax and national insurance. This is crazy. And now they want to go after even more. So 725,000 workers are going to fall into this tax trap, up from 300,000 previously. So they really are going after absolutely every last penny that people have got. I don't know what you think of it, but I just think it's absolutely outrageous. And they are ruining the country. So many people are leaving the country now. So many entrepreneurs. I know 3 or 4 really successful entrepreneurs that I know personally. I mean, I know of hundreds from the media that have already left, and they're taking their businesses with them. I have a few friends. 2 of them had media businesses similar to what I do, but slightly different. And they've moved, and one of them had about 25 staff. They've moved their staff with them. Now, not all the staff wanted to move because they had families and kids, but a lot of them have. So they've moved their business out of the country, one to somewhere in the UAE, the other moved it to Florida. This is just what is happening now. People are getting fed up that this government is incompetent. They've created all of this debt, and you've got to ask, well, who is the debt to? Who is that debt owed to? Says the Bank of England, right? And the politicians. They create all of this currency, all of this debt, and then the taxpayer has to pay it back, even though you've got no say on it whatsoever. And it just winds me up. It really does. one thing I wanted to show you then, they're going to scrap... Okay, the other one then, remember that she vowed to protect homes from a council tax overhaul. Well, that's been scrapped. She said now that she can't rule that out and that they may have to increase the council tax. Another one then, if you think about America, this is what America has as their vice president. J.D. Vance, here he is with the Marines out on a tab with his pack and everything else. Here's what we've got. This was Rayner over the weekend in, of all things, an inflatable dinghy. Would you get in an inflatable dinghy as the Deputy Prime Minister with a vape and looking like that? I know I wouldn't. It is the last thing I would even consider doing. We've got to talk about her home in a minute because this is absolutely crazy. But before then, the UK government keeps taxing people more and more. They're just going after everyone while politicians and the bureaucrats just never seem to suffer. They keep reaping the rewards while the average person is squeezed dry. But here's what I want to say. I don't know if you've looked into this program that I made here, and it shows you all sorts of things. But one thing I just want to mention briefly is then, I mentioned about the thermostat that we all have, because wealth isn't just about your job or the economy. It's really about how you think. It's that thermostat in your mind. And these politicians get away with it because they can. They can get away with it because no one stops them. And remember, we've all got a financial thermostat. So we can turn it up or we can turn it down. But what happens is most people kind of get stuck in this cycle over and over again, get stuck in this cycle. It's like born, go to school, get educated in the Industrial Revolution system, these rows, listen to a teacher at the front who has to go off a curriculum. Now, look, most of them are very good. Don't get me wrong. But some of them now, you've seen what's happened with the infiltration at school. And then you have people then that come out of school and they go into these sort of this world which was designed from these rows where you memorize and learn things to get this job which doesn't really get you anywhere in life. So you're paying your taxes. Look at that example. Someone earns what's considered an elitist, right? Wealthy, £100,000. 62% tax above that. It's not worth it. That's why I was in that conundrum. I was like, forget this. Why bother working when I'm giving all my money to the government? And that wasn't even including that 62%, the 20% business tax I paid before that. So it's pointless. It's a waste of time. But there is a way. This is where the psychology comes in then. So you probably heard me say before, I read more than 200 books on money and finance and economics. And even now it's probably more like 1,000 or thousands if you include white papers and everything else. I worked with the top psychologists in the world all around wealth and the mindset. And that's what you saw on screen, that program that I put together, which teaches you all of this pretty much, step by step. Teach the models, the strategies, all the things that I learned, teach you how to stay ahead of the government and all this taxation and robbing us blind. And I just say, why spend years or thousands trying to learn all this for yourself when I've already created the program for you, and thousands, I think it's about 7,000 people who have taken these courses now. Read the testimonials, don't take my word for it, and you'll see for yourself. So that is all I'll say on that before we get back into Rayner and her crazy new property purchase. But if you look below in the description, you will see that. You'll see the link to that. Have a read of it. If it's right for you, click through and get a bit more information. If it's not for you, don't worry. Thank you for looking. I really appreciate it. Now, Angela Rayner then, we've got to talk about what she has just done. And this is what I find absolutely sort of insane around the whole thing. Here's the image again. So she's just purchased an £800,000 seafront home, okay? This is what she has just purchased. She hasn't got one house. She hasn't got two houses. She's got three houses. And what makes this so outrageous is that she's the one that's just announced, I've got to find it on the charts here, she's the one that's just announced this new tax. Okay, here it is. She went on the rampage against people that have got two homes, like a holiday home or a second home that they rent out. She said, this is destroying local communities. You are ruining local communities by having all these, having a second home and whatever else. This is what she said. Okay. By the way, I don't have a second home if anyone jumps on me for this as well. I don't own a second home. I own one home. But this is what she was saying, that it's destroying all these local communities and seaside towns and everything else. Guess where she buys this third home? She's got one in London, she's got one in Manchester, now she's got one on the coast in a seaside town where she has absolutely hammered people. Here it is, where is it? Yeah, she's also got a £650,000 home in Manchester. She's got a house, a flat in London as well. It's probably millions, her flat in London. So she's imposing an extra 100% council tax charge on second homes. This is in particular in holiday hotspots, where she said no one ever needs a second home in a holiday hotspot, talking about holiday cottages, you can rent them, and yet she goes and does it. This is what I'm saying, ladies and gents. These politicians, they are hypocrites, because they say one thing to everyone and do something else behind closed doors. Do you remember during COVID, Matt, he was saying, you can't go near each other, and then he's having an affair with that woman, and the camera catches it, and it's like, they're crazy. These people are creating parties during lockdowns and all sorts, and now they just act like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? I was watching a documentary recently, actually, about all these terrible things that happen where people, what's the new word I have to say? Unlive themselves, right? And I was watching that, and the documentary was going back decades and decades, and it was showing all these black and white newspaper articles as well from way, way back in the day. And it was like, oh, mystery. These 4 people all died in the same 24-hour period of accidents, who had spoke out against the government and stuff like that. And they interviewed people later on anyway, government workers and government people that were high up, and they said, basically, what are you going to do? The public are individuals, they described them, weak individuals who will never do anything together. So we haven't got to worry about all these people. We only have to worry about 1 or 2 people who might do something. And we have an army and we have all this. And I thought, yeah, that is exactly how these leaders think. They think they're above the law. They can say one thing and do something else, and no one's ever going to do anything about it. Drop in the comments as we go along. Tell me what you think. So she's been asked multiple times to declare what properties she owns and where she pays taxes. And each time she says she refuses to answer those questions. We've done everything possible to get answers, says another politician here, but she still refuses to come clean. She won't say what properties she owns or if she pays taxes. So there's a housing shortage. She wants to soak the rich while yet she's building her own property portfolio. Indeed. Well, let's see what else it says here. Let's see what else it says. Okay, that's it for now. Okay, next article. This is a big one. Are you ready for this one? Here we go. London woman, 49, arrested over supply of boats to cross channel, people smugglers, right? So the first thing I did was what you would expect. I did a search. Identity of the woman arrested over supply of boats to cross-channel people smugglers. I went through pages and pages and pages, and guess what? It will not tell you the identity. So that tells me right away what I need to know. And it wasn't just me. I went onto Facebook here, and it says name and face of woman, or it's kite fly. That's never going to happen. Everyone says the same thing. Identity. Show the identity. Are there any women left in London? I bet there's all sorts of comments. Show her face. This is what everyone's saying. Name and shame. If it was a white lady, it would be straight away. It's very true. So that is another thing. We've been saying it for years now. Someone's supplying these boats. Obviously, someone's supplying the boats. Who is supplying the boats? Because what happens, these people arrive on the shore. The boats are always the same, these dinghies. They get packed up, loaded in the back of the van. Look, I think it was Farage that actually filmed it one day, or one of his team. And then another person put an Apple AirTag under which is not legal, but that's beside the point. Someone put an AirTag on the van, and it went all the way back, and it just kept doing loops. For months, this was going on. Months, it was just looping. And that is, right, and they say they can't do anything about it. Government can't do anything. Well, as soon as now all these protests are going on, all of a sudden, the police find out who is doing all this stuff. Isn't that incredible? What a coincidence. Now they can figure it out. They couldn't figure it out before, but all of a sudden now, they can figure it all out. Next then, have you seen the shock stats on jobs in the UK? This is vacancies in the hospitality sector, right? So this was June of 2022, 177,000. Look at what has happened as we get to July of 2025. That is a collapse. 177,000 down to 73,000. That's a loss of 104,000 job openings. That is insane. BBC even leads as well. Half of UK job losses in hospitality, says bosses. More than half of them have been lost now due to the budget. This is sad. It really is. UK hospitality has 750 members and represents more than 123,000 venues. Said the sector accounted for 53% of all job losses in the UK. It could reach 100,000 by the time of the next budget. So what are we seeing? Well, a third of businesses are cutting their opening hours. 1 in 8 is saying that they're closing sites, and 60% said they're cutting staff numbers. We could see very significant business closures and failures and accelerated job losses going into the next year. This could be as bad as the lockdown period. This poor chap here, he pays the government £300,000 to £400,000 a year, and he can't even afford to pay himself anymore. Sad, very sad. And it's not working. Look, prices went up by 3.8% in the year to July. So inflation is still really high. The number of employees on payroll has fallen in 10 of the last 12 months. This is a pattern now, is what we're seeing, ladies and gents. Job openings fell by 5.8% as well. This is continuing. It is just going on. Now then, Lucy Connolly says she will meet Trump officials for talk on free speech. You notice they keep using this horrible picture of her, and the way they describe her is wrong, I would say. Look at how Sky News, disappointed in Sky News here. Councillor's wife jailed for inciting racial hatred on X is been released now after the... Yeah, anyway, you can read all that. Again, they use the same image. They seem to all be in on it. I thought I could kind of... Sky News wasn't that bad, but I'm disappointed by this. A Northampton childminder who was jailed for inciting racial hatred has been released from prison. That is how they lead the story. But this is the big one, is that she's going to be meeting with Trump admin, possibly even J.D. Vance himself. This is big news. Let me know what you think in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen. I'd love to read, as I always do, go through and read the comments. Unless there's I think my last video had 2,500 comments. I couldn't quite get through 2,500, but I will read a lot of the comments, as many as I can. But yeah, it is worrying. Just a reminder, check out the Psychology of Wealth program, because a lot of people as well, when they hear the word wealth, they think like a negative connotation around wealth. So think of it as money if you prefer it that way. Thanks for watching today. I really appreciate you. I hope you're enjoying all the extra content as well that I am putting out. I'm doing my best to get out a lot more. I'm going to be starting the city tours as well next. I think it'll be next month. So there's a lot of cities I'm going to start going around in the UK and documenting all of the good and the bad, really, as I like to do. So thank you for being a subscriber here. Wait, let me throw that button on screen. There it is. Really appreciate you. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you on the next one.